Welcome to Go Like Yourself, a podcast about streaming on the internet. I am Cherry Cake.
And I'm Crunky.
And I'm Wolfy.
We aim to bring you regular interviews with your favorite streamers to find out more about the person behind the webcam.
We give you more of an inside look into how they got started, what their goals are, and what keeps them coming back to stream.
Today we're talking to Wolftrove. You can find him at twitch.tv/wolf_trove.
Welcome, Wolf. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Not too bad.
That's great.
Hey, Wolfie, thanks for coming on the podcast today, man. I really appreciate it.
That's not a problem, man. Thanks for letting me come here.
Yes, we have allowed you to grace us with your presence. For those who don't know, Wolftrove has been hanging out with a group of us here on the Go Like Yourself podcast community for, well, I want to say it's a couple months. I believe we met you through, you said earlier, we met you through Truffle, right?
Right. So I met Truffle through her husband, Sammy. And Sammy and I used to play The Division together. And then I found out that she started streaming, or had been streaming. And then I thought that was cool. And so that's how I met you guys through it.
So when did you start streaming, by the way?
I started streaming about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Around this time, to be exact. And I started streaming on YouTube first. I did a lot of making my own videos. I didn't edit them a lot because I wasn't very talented at that. And I'm still not talented. So,
well, if you ever need someone to help you edit videos, Cherry Cake's very good at it.
I've seen, yeah. So yeah, I did a lot of YouTube videos. I mostly played Factorio.
That's okay. Just go through it. I'll edit that out.
Oh, okay. So I mostly make videos on YouTube, and I did at the time. I mostly made Factorio videos. Mostly because Factorio is one of the games that I really enjoy playing.
I was going to say, I know you love playing that game. I didn't realize it had been out that long.
So Factorio, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, came out 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I had only heard about it recently. In fact, I think you gifted it to me during one of my streams, if I remember right. Is that correct?
That is correct.
It was bad I don't remember a gift, but I literally, since I've started streaming, I have more games to play than I have time to play them, and I haven't even booted it up yet. I'm sorry.
That's totally okay, and I don't expect anybody that I gift it to actually play it. The game did come out in February 2016, so it's about 2 years ago.
Wow.
And I put maybe 800 hours into that game in the first 2 months.
Holy cow.
That's crazy. It's in the first 4 months that I did it, but that makes more sense to me.
So you had an IV hooked up and you played it on the toilet. I got you.
Yeah, like I played it every day. And the worst part about it is that the way that I used to play was that I would make what's called spaghetti cities, where you would go and find copper, and then you would transport the copper to another place to make the plate, and then you would transport the plate directly to where you want to make it. Opposed to the way the megabus that everybody's been doing, where you make like 4 lanes of copper plate, and then you disperse it along that line.
All right, so you're going to be like 10 levels deep into this game compared to us. Talk to us about the game. Like, what kind of game is it? Anyway, is it like a Minecraft find resources, craft better ways to make refining resources? Is that?
I don't know. The best way to explain Factorio is it's a resource management game.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of the whole game itself is that you've crash landed on an alien planet, and you want to get off the planet. So the idea is you have to build a rocket ship. So the way it works is you only know so much in your head about the blueprints and everything that you can make. So you have to then go out and find resources, bring them back, make them into other things in order to craft more materials, then to learn more stuff through a technology that was enhanced in your suit but doesn't actually come out in your head. Which would be the best way to explain it. Yeah.
Collect resources, rebuild your rocket to get home, and all is entailed in doing that.
Right. And then one of the problems with it, I'm sorry to cut you off, Terry, but
it's okay.
One of the problems for the game is that while you're doing this, you're creating pollution on the map. And there is an alien. Well, they're not alien to themselves, but they're alien to us.
Right.
But the inhabitants of the homeworld are there. And every time you make pollution, it disturbs them a little bit.
Okay.
And if it comes far enough, what they'll do is they'll send a crew to come and attack and kill you. So you also have to defend yourself at the same time, right?
Right.
So that's what makes the game compelling to me, is that I'm trying to figure out how to make a base and how to make it optional, try to make it more like interwoven so it's all compact and nice and fits nice. But at the same time, trying to protect myself from the inhabitants of the world that I'm now intruding upon.
So it sounds like a little bit of a combination of like um, Age of Empires meets Lemmings meets like a construction simulator.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is there
Have
any
you
kind
played
of
this one,
end
Cherry?
game to it? No, I haven't played this one. No.
The end game for this is essentially to shoot rockets into space. And that when you shoot your first rocket into space, that's when the game is over. But you can continue to play it if you decide to. So it's kind of like an open world. You can do whatever you want. And when I stream the game, that's how I mention it. Like, if you want to come play with me, you can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. You could destroy my whole base, take it over, redo it. Makes no difference. The important thing is the community that shows up, and we all help each other out, right?
Oh, okay. So is it online multiplayer?
Yes, so it does have a single player component as well as an online multiplayer if you wish to do so.
Oh yeah, because I saw you do it recently with fans, didn't you? Followers
Yeah.
on stream.
So a lot of the people that were there, most of them came from YouTube when I was streaming there, and I had maybe an audience of 50 people who would watch me consistently on YouTube play Factorio.
Nice.
And then
Awesome.
when I had made the transition over to Twitch, because I wasn't going to make any money, and I wasn't really looking to make money, but at the same time, like, YouTube's broken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I came over to Twitch when I eventually met Truffle, and she decided to tell me that, it is better for me to come here and stream here. You'd probably get a better audience, so I did, and that is why I am now on Twitch.
Nice. When did you make the switch over to Twitch?
I made the switch last year in February.
Okay, so about a year on Twitch. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I've seen, like, here recently, just since I've known you, I've seen you play games like Civ 6 and Oxygen Not Included. You had what I don't get to catch all of your streams because of I have a full time job too, but I saw you play Hand of Fate 2, and you did a lot of reading and let the audience participate in that. That's kind of integrated into Twitch. You seem to have a lot of success with that. I know because my wife kept going, "You gotta come watch this stream with me. It's so amazing."
That's fantastic. No, so the way that Hand of Fate 2 is, I stream games because I'm going to play them regardless. So, I mean, if I shared the experience that I'm having, then that's all well and done, and I don't care who shows up. Hand of Fate 2, however, was more for the audience to do some. I had a regular, her name is Michelli. She showed up every stream I did for Hand of Fate 2. And
I
she'd
know
be the only
Michelli.
one.
I've talked to her yesterday. That's funny.
Yeah, she was the only one to ever come every stream and vote and do all this stuff, and that was enjoyable to me. I wish there was more people, of course. Who doesn't?
I remember you would come play PUBG with us after you streamed. And you're like, I don't have a voice anymore because you would stream it for hours upon hours.
Yeah, I did maybe an 8-hour stream once with it, I think. And I just sat there and talked and talked and talked and read all the stuff. And if I were to play it by myself, I wouldn't necessarily read all the words on the page. It would read what I would need to know in order to pass. Or if I got bored, I would just skip through it.
Right.
So by streaming it and then reading it aloud, it allows me to understand what is going on in the game that I probably wouldn't otherwise have learned.
That's great.
Yeah. Oh. As for, like, Oxygen Not Included, I put mostly my followers in there, so whenever duplicates come out. So the game is, you're on an asteroid, I think. That's how the game comes up.
Right.
You have 3 colonists, and you have to make them survive throughout the game. And every so many days or cycles that go through, you have to make a new duplicate from the duplicate printing center, I guess you would call it, and try to make them survive. And it's really hard to do that.
Yeah.
So a lot of the days you're not going to make more oxygen than what your duplicates are consuming.
So that's why you have to. That's the resource management aspect
Right.
of that game.
So if there's one thing to talk about me for is that I do love resource management games.
Definitely.
It blows my mind. I love it so much. I'll play them forever.
I've definitely noticed that. I came home from work yesterday, and I think you and Gorby were playing Civilization.
Yes.
Which I've gone on this podcast before and said that I totally understand and respect how awesome and amazing it is as a game, but it just never has clicked with me. And then because Gorby's always asked me to play, I saw you guys playing. I'm like, that's great because you guys played it for how long straight? Like a couple hours at least.
I was streaming previously, and then Gorby came on, and I said, "Hey, do you want to do Civ 6? I'm kind of bored of playing Oxygen Included this morning." He goes, "Yeah, man. When do you want to play?" And I said, "Right now. Let's go."
Yeah,
And-
Gorby's he's a busy guy. He's got a lot going on, so he's usually like, let's play, and then you play for like 20 minutes. He goes, okay, I gotta go.
Well, that was the other thing. I said, we can stream this for as long as you want. If you got to go at any point, let me know. We'll save the game and we'll come back to it. So this is the first game that we're actually going to continue on until we beat it, and then we'll probably start over again. But no, like you, I've been one of the people who looked at Civ and said, "Oh, that looks fun. I don't really want to play it." Or if I do play it, I don't understand what's going on. And Civ 6 is more user friendly, I would say.
Okay.
And it's still complex at the same time. So there are a lot of things in the game which I don't understand. And I probably won't understand until I try to sit there and read it, but I'm not going to sit there and read it.
So this will be showing my age a bit. The last Civ I tried was before 2009. And the only reason I know that is I moved in 2009 and I remember playing it in my old house. So whenever the hell it might have been Civ 3 or 4 at the time. And I played it, I probably put 10 hours into it. And on my 10th hour, I was just like, okay, I'm starting to get the flow, like the pattern of this game and how the turns work. I just don't care. I stopped playing it. Have you ever tried to play it, Cher?
No. I was about to ask then, though, like, can you guys explain it a little bit more? Because
I obviously can't.
Wolf, do be honest.
So, okay. I'll try to explain Civ the best to how I know it.
Okay.
Civilization is a 4X or a hex game. I don't remember what they call it. Essentially, you have like hexagons, which are the tiles of the board.
Yeah.
And then when you first start the game, you get a settler, which turns into a city, and a warrior. And those are the only two things you get. So you find a good place to settle your city, and then your population will increase depending on the food supply that you have. You can make food, but you have to make builders, and then everything's turn-based. So a builder may take maybe 5 turns this time, and then the next time you do it, it's like 3 turns or 2 turns. It's all, I think, based on the population, which increases the production that your cities all get to make.
Oh, okay. So it's a little bit more turn-based strategy type.
Yeah, I would say it would be a lot more turn-based, considering the whole game is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who do you like go up against then?
So in the game, the Civilization games, what they normally do is they'll pick characters out of history, and they'll set them up in like different civilizations. So I was playing as Harold, somebody who was from Norway. So I was a Viking essentially, and that's what I was looking for. So because I was a Viking, I was able to create units called the Berserkers, which did amazing melee damage towards other characters. But you needed a certain research in order to get them, and then to make science, you have to make science buildings and so forth and so on.
So you got to do your research in order to open up different trees, sort of like I'm thinking this is going to show my age of Empires and like SimCity and that kind of deal.
I mean, that's not really showing your age, but yes, you're right.
I mean, 1970s Pong, like that game.
Yeah, okay, 1970s I can't speak for, but...
Well, we've talked a little bit about the games that you played and the genre that you like. Do you remember like what got you into gaming growing up? What was your first console, or maybe you had a computer first?
So the first system that I had was a PC. It was a Windows. Oh god, it was a Windows Pentium, I think. I don't remember if Pentium was the actual make of it or if it was the designer. But the computer that I had was Windows 95.
Okay.
And I used to play a game which no one's ever heard of before, but it does exist. It's called Chips Challenge.
Chips Challenge.
Ooh.
No, I don't know that one.
No.
But there is another game that you might have heard of, which is the Space Cadet Pinball.
Uh-huh.
And everybody's played that. So I played both of those games when I first started. And it just, when you're playing a game, if you get immersed in what's going on, you kind of lose the sense of what's going around in the world.
Yeah.
And that's what I like.
Classic
I like getting
escapism.
lost.
Yeah.
Right. So that is mostly the reason why I play video games in the first place. But let's go back to the topic we're on. So Chips Challenge was the game that I started with.
Just for the listener at home, Chips Challenge is a top-down, tile-based puzzle video game published in 1989 by Epix. It was actually an Atari Lynx launch title, but then was ported over to Windows 3.1. Microsoft
You just
Entertainment
Googled that, didn't you?
4.
Because I just did the same thing. I was reading it word for word there.
It's rare that somebody pulls up a 1980s or 90s video game that I've never heard of, so I had to.
True.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's funny because this as an Atari Lynx launch title, I do remember the Atari Lynx. It was like one of the first handhelds, the first color handhelds for sure.
We had one of them as well.
Did you really?
Yeah, we did.
All I can remember is I had a friend who had one, and it took 4 AA batteries that lasted like 45 minutes.
It wasn't the best.
But so you played? Did you play a lot of that on PC? You had a Windows 3.1 or Windows 95? You said.
I had Windows 95, and I did play that as often as I could. My mother was very against me being on the computer, so the time that I would play was not a lot, but the game was like a puzzle platformer in a way. Like, the idea was that there would be a door that was locked, and you needed a blue key. In order to find the blue key, you have to go through this maze, find the blue key, and then come all the way back. So that's...
You know what? I have played this, Wolf. I just didn't know what it was called.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was, like it said here on Wikipedia, it was a pack-in game for Windows 3.1, but it also came on some, like, multimedia versions of Windows 95 later on. As they just threw it on there. And I have played it, where you got to get the little keys and go through the locked doors. Yeah, I do remember that. And the chip is Chip's name, and also the little silicon chips that you collected in the game, right?
Correct.
Because it almost looks like Minesweep to me.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was made at the same time as Minesweep.
So yeah, that was basically what got me into gaming. And then if we roll through maybe 10 years from when I started, maybe around 6 years old is probably when I did start.
Okay.
So if we go around to the age of 15, that is when I started living with my dad, and I had my own computer. It wasn't a family shared computer.
Oh, nice.
And that was around the time that I got into Star Wars Jedi Knight Academy or something like that. It was one of the Star Wars Jedi ones. And
yeah, Jedi Knight 2 probably was the biggest release that they had, where it was a first-person lightsaber game.
Yeah. This one,
great.
I believe, was Academy.
Yep.
And the story and everything wasn't all that amazing, but I did get introduced to the multiplayer, which then had different clans that you could join. So I ended up spending a lot of time just sitting there and interacting with a lot of the people that were online, and I found a group of people that I liked, and I stayed with them, and they said, okay, well, in order for you to up rank in our clan, you must have to do these certain moves with a lightsaber as you're walking around. And I'm like, what? That's crazy. And because people were like that, that's how I got into multiplayer.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I don't think I played Academy, but I played some of the other Jedi Knight 1 and 2 that had more of I liked the story part of it. The multiplayer was fun. Like, I'd knock it out. I'd play it for an hour or two. But the single player, that was back in the late 90s, back when first-person shooters thought they still had to be platformers as well. So they had all these crazy sections where you had to like make these particular jumps that were almost impossible to do in first person.
Yeah, good times.
So did you ever have a video game console, or were you mostly PC?
For the longest time, I was into PC, and then after I think my first job is when I got into Xbox.
Oh, okay.
And I bought an Xbox, and then I had one of my friends mod it for me so that I could have, I think, a 250 gigabyte hard drive on it. And then I illegally downloaded a bunch of games. I'm not
Oh,
really
We do.
proud of that, but
We don't encourage piracy here unless you're playing Sea of Thieves.
yes.
hey.
It was a
Which
long time ago, you gotta remember.
That's all
which
right.
Xbox was it? Wolf, was it 360 one? Are you talking about?
No, I'm talking about the regular Xbox.
Oh, the original one.
The original, yeah.
Oh man, that's going back.
So
Yeah.
that's when I got into Xbox, and then I played that for a long time. And Perfect
Well,
Dark, that came out on the Xbox, really held me for a long time as well.
now, are you talking about Perfect Dark for Xbox 360?
I do believe. I don't know now.
Wasn't that one?
It
What was
might
the
have been.
cover? No, the first Perfect Dark was on the N64, but Xbox 360's one of their launch titles was Perfect Dark Zero, and the only reason I know that is because I bought an Xbox 360 in 2006, and or maybe early 2006, yeah, and bought Perfect Dark Zero because I loved the original Perfect Dark, and they changed too much about what I loved about Perfect Dark, or the genre just had evolved to the point where that formula no longer worked.
Hmm. Yeah, it was probably Xbox 360 then, is
Yeah.
one of the games that held me. I can't remember if it was 360 or Xbox, but there was a game called Black. And Black was a first person shooter game, which was the only one that I knew at the time had the red barrels that you could shoot and they would explode, and they were everywhere.
Yeah, Black was that's the one that had the bullets all over the cover. I never played it, but I was aware of it. So that was 360 era for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you talk about the red barrels, uh, that comes from Doom. That's the Doom or Wolfenstein were the first ones first person shooters I ever saw that had those. The only reason I laugh is because I've always heard them called Doom barrels because of that reason.
Oh, okay. I think Black itself just had more destructive ability to the game. Like you could level an entire level,
Oh wow.
and that is the reason why a lot of people played it. And that's one of the reasons what I really enjoyed. So, yeah.
Well, it's obvious to me that you're a big fan of puzzle games and shooters, like first person games. Have you ever played like Portal and those kind of first person puzzler games?
So back when, not when Steam came out, because you had Steam long before I did. I would say back in 2007, something like that.
Yeah.
When I originally got Steam, I did play Portal, and I also did play Counter Strike. And Portal was actually really fun because it was a puzzle platformer that was first person, so that was decent, and I enjoyed playing that. Um,
Okay.
it was funny that Cake was a lie and I died.
But Portal was never released like as a standalone game, now was it? Wasn't it always part of the Orange Box?
Oh no, it was a standalone game on PC.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that one either.
Well, yeah, I bought Portal by itself when it came out. Actually, um, Portal was developed by a development team from a college project. These kids, well, they were kids at the time, and I'm blanking on the names. I used to have them. I used to know it, but they made this tech demo for a school project called, I'm gonna get this name wrong, Nambicular Drop, which is basically the core gameplay mechanic of puzzle of Portal, a puzzle game where you jumped through portals. However, instead of making little portals on the wall, it was this like giant stone statue, and the textures were not great by today's standards. But that project got noticed by Valve, and Valve hired them. And maybe 2 years after that, they came out with the Portal game. I was excited about Portal, bought it on day one because of like this is back before Reddit. There was a website called somethingawful.com that I frequented their forums, and it kind of like made a blip there about it being this really interesting tech demo, the project to try out, and I played it, and I was fascinated by it. And they took everything that made Nambicular Drop fun and neat, and they made they boiled it down to a good PC game, a well-rounded PC game. Nambicular Drop had some, later on in Portal 1, there were some puzzles that were really difficult to figure out.
Yeah.
They went like 10 levels deeper than that in Nambicular Drop. And you could actually, you could shoot portals through portals in Nambicular Drop, which quickly escalated out of control. I ever have to Google search and chat with people on how to figure out some of the later ones because they were so difficult. But yeah, Portal was a standalone release on PC, and then later came as part of the Orange Box to consoles.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever play the Orange Box on console?
I did not.
Yeah, my nephew asked for it for Christmas that year, or we got it for him. I don't remember if he asked for it, but he still plays Team Fortress 2 to this day. And how long ago was that Orange Box came out? Because he loved that Orange Box. And just unrelated, but has there ever been a better value for $50 for the Orange Box? You get Half-Life 2, Portal, and Team Fortress 2 online for one price.
Yeah. Decent.
Let's see, September 12th, 2003 is when Steam officially launched. Wow.
2003. So I just looked at my service badge that I have in the badges window.
Yeah.
And it says I have 8 years of service. So I'm not 100% sure if I started in 2010 or that is when they started recording badges.
Oh, probably. How do you find that?
If you go to your profile, there will be a badges tab just on your profile on the right-hand side.
Okay.
And then if you scroll down to the very bottom, it should be one of the first two achievements, the first two badges before they stop saying that you can create them.
Gotcha.
So it'll be like halfway down the list or something like that.
Sherry, do you remember when you first installed Steam?
I think I've got a 9-year badge or something like that. Nice.
I'm at 13 years of service. I think I got mine with when Half-Life 2 launched. I bought it. It actually, you had to install Steam in order to play that. I think that's when I broke down and got it.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, so I'm at 8 years of service.
Nice.
And I mean, I've spent billions of dollars that I don't have on video games.
Including buying stuff for us that you should be buying.
Well, I mean, we got to play Magicka.
Yeah, I know. I played Magicka 1 a couple of years ago. I've not turned on Magicka 2 yet. Have you played it at all?
I did load it up the other day just to test it out, and I've killed myself a lot.
You die so much in that game.
Oh, yeah. So much.
Nice. Well, moving on, talking about Twitch and gaming, I noticed maybe a month or two ago, you started using FaceRig and actually are a literal wolf on your stream these days.
So yeah, originally I was introduced to FaceRig by a guy named Ozzy in Space, and he uses the Doge version of that.
Yeah.
And he has glasses on his head, and he sits there and he uses that, but he does have a photo underneath his channel that does show what he does look like. It's something that he enjoys. And I understand that, but I never knew what it was called. And then during the winter sale, I think, a couple months ago, you had bought it and played around with it. And you said it was decent, but it really tagged on your computer and dragged your CPU down.
Yeah, I had issues with it that I probably could have and should have researched better. I did it kind of more for a laugh because I think on Steam sale it was like $5 or something ridiculously cheap. So I thought, well, I'll do it, and I messed with it, and I wasn't happy with a couple of things because I have glasses. It didn't capture my eye movements well because the way that it reflected. So I was going to have to like change up the way I'm oriented in front of my mic, and I ended up just refunding it.
I believe there was an ability where you can have like a stock face and only have the mouth move. Like a lot of it is through the menus, and you have to customize it to the way that you want it. I've left it so that the main body stands still and only the head moves. only because I found a lot of times I'd be sitting in my chair and I would slouch or something like that, and my character would also like semi be halfway down on the screen, and I'm like, what is going on? That is not what I want to do. So it allowed me to configure it a little bit so that I could have more control over my character. And
Right.
every day or so, I like change it. Like I change the avatar. I only use one. It is the wolf one with the jacket and the scarf. But I do change the fur color sometimes, depending. Like if I had a really stressful day, I'll turn it white. It's just a
Oh,
subtle
okay.
nuance that a lot of people don't really notice because they haven't.
My hand's raised right now. I've never noticed.
Yeah. But you will now. Now that you've told us, Wolf,
Yeah, I
you've given
will.
all your
Yeah.
secrets away.
So that's one of the things. Like, so if I'm having a really good day, it'll probably be a red wolf because I think the color red on wolves is just amazing to me.
Well, doesn't your wolf normally wear a red coat or a
Yeah,
red
so he's
jacket?
got a black jacket and it's got red tips on it, and then the
Okay,
scarf is like checkered with a red uh, border to it as well.
nice.
And
Well, that kind of transitions well into what I wanted to talk about next, which is what does streaming mean to Wolfie? What do you get from it? What do you not get from it? Or does it help fill any kind of like uh, social needs to you, like it does a lot of our listeners and people who we've had on guests?
so it's a little different for me. It depends on the day that I'm streaming. Some days I feel like I've not been as social as I want to be, so by streaming that does add an element. Other days I don't really want to talk to people, and I know that I should. And
Right.
streaming helps me with that. Sometimes people never even show up, and I sit there talking to myself. And that's totally fine by my standards. I'm totally okay with this, right?
Gotcha.
So I will keep streaming. Mostly when I decide that I want to play games. I don't have a set schedule, and I haven't thought of one yet. I probably should so that I could get regulars, but uh, it's
Yeah,
not.
I've had that same issue with trying to come up with a schedule. Until recently, I've just been super swamped with a new position at work, and I was playing in a couple of different bands on a couple times a month, and well, now that that's all gone, I might actually sit down and put down a schedule to do those things you're talking about.
Right.
Every bit of advice I've ever gotten from like big partner streamers is you have to have a schedule. You got to keep it to take that next level.
Right. And that's one of the other things about streaming to me is that as much as I have fun with it, that's really all it is. I'm not here to make money. I appreciate the people who do sub to me, but it's
Yeah.
not necessary. I care about followers. Like, I would love to have 1 billion followers. If it means nothing, that's amazing. That's all. It doesn't mean anything. But I have it.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have it.
You didn't know how much you wanted it until you didn't have it.
Right. And then the other thing is, like you said, I also have a full-time job. I make 9 times more than what I could ever make on Twitch. So there's no point for me to even try to be a partner.
Right.
So that isn't my primary goal. If I get it, that's fantastic. If I don't get it, it doesn't change a thing.
It seems to be the best way to think about it, like that, Wolf. Anyway, from what Crunk was just saying, then when you interview big people, or like big streamers on Twitch, it was never really their aim to become a partner. It was always like a secondary thing.
Yep.
So it's probably the best way to go, thinking about it.
Well, I think in the same way as a PUBG, like, I know that I'm going to die in PUBG, right?
Yeah.
So if you take the part where you die and you subtract it from what you care about, so if you say, I'm going to walk into the PUBG match, I know that in the first 10 seconds I'm going to die. And you think about it that way, you'll have more fun playing PUBG because you no longer care about death.
I don't understand what you're talking about.
Okay. Well, we can cut that
No,
out
no.
because
I'm
He's
joking.
kidding,
I'm joking.
Yeah.
How do you not care about dying in PUBG? That's the only important part.
That's
But yeah,
actually
so that's
now
the
that
same
you've
thing about streaming, right? So
yeah.
if you come on every day and you don't care, don't care is a terrible word, but if you don't have like a strong emotion towards, oh, every day I must get a sub or I must get a follower and it has to happen or it's not going to be good to me, right? So if you
Right.
take a look at that and say, okay, I'm going to stream because I want to, not because it's demanded by the people. Like, I have one follower who says I should play Witcher all the time. His name is Jam Jam. and that's all he wants me to do. But some days I don't feel like doing that. So the way that it works for me is that when I feel comfortable that I want to stream, I will do so. And if I don't get any followers and no one shows up, it doesn't make any difference because I was going to play this game regardless.
It's definitely the best way to look at it.
All right then, Wolf. Where did the whole Wolf thing originate from then?
All right, so if we really want to go into this, I, as a child, always wanted a dog. And
Okay.
I was told that I did have a dog when I was like 2 or 3. The dog's name was Scruffy, and she was a female. And that dog, from what I was told, would protect me even from my parents. So my parents would come up, and the dog would go into defensive stance and stay there and say, "No, you can't take him. He's mine."
Aww.
And so ever since I've learned that, I've had this connection to dogs that a lot of other people can probably say they have had as well. But I really like wolves because they're out there, they're doing their own thing. You know, sometimes people do kill them. That is sad on my part. I don't like that. But then you look at stories where there was a national park in the States that wasn't doing so well, and they brought in a pack of wolves, and those wolves then killed some of the deer, which stopped them from eating all the plants, and the plants were able to grow back, and beavers came and did dams and all this other stuff. And the whole thing was turned around by a pack of wolves. And that's just so inspiring to me. So, becoming Wolfy, when I had originally moved from Quebec, I moved down to Niagara Falls. This was going back a couple years ago. And when I got to the new school, no one had known my name. And all the friends that I made were not in my class. So what I did was I walked outside and people said, "Oh, hey, I'm so-and-so. Who are you?" I said, "Oh, my name's Wolfy." And that stuck. And it stayed like that for the rest of time. So
so you go by Wolfy with your friends in real life too?
Yeah. So a lot of my friends in real life know my first name, but they can't say it because it sounds weird to them.
It's funny. Cherry and I were talking the other day about how, with the exception of Dee, because that is her real name, if we all met in real life somewhere, like if we all went to TwitchCon, is how it came up. You know, could we call each other by our real names face to face? It would just feel strange.
It would be very weird.
But see, I've made that a reality where it happens on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So to me, it's not weird. If I were to meet you, I would call you Crunky. If I met Cherry, I would say, "Hey, Cherry." You know, but if you can learn to react to the name that you have given yourself, then it's fine.
Yeah, for sure.
Like if someone walks down the street and mentionally says Wolfy and they're talking about somebody else, my head will turn. If someone talks about another John, because that is my real name, and we'll go with that, I won't turn at all. Like, it doesn't bother me.
Is your real name John Doe?
Yeah, it is John Doe. So at work, I try to convince people. I'm like, if you say Wolfy, my head will turn around and I'll start listening to you. If you call me by my first name, 10 times out of 10, I won't listen. And,
Nice.
That doesn't really work in a work setting. But, I mean it as humor as well as being serious. And they take it as humor. So it all works out.
So what about the second part to your name then? Where did Trove come from? So
when I was trying to figure out a name for myself, I didn't know what to do. When I was on YouTube, I was called Drunken Wolf. Drunken Wolf had come up when I was back in high school. I was drunk every day. And that's not something we should promote. So, I just hung out with the wrong crowd of people.
Yeah.
And such and such. And so my name wasn't Drunken Wolfy, but when I went online, that's what it was. And then while I was on YouTube, I started playing with other names. I wanted to be called A Murder of Wolves, which is like a murder of crows, but a pack of wolves instead of a flock of crows. But that name was very long, and for a lot of people to say that might deter them from going to my channel because that's a lot of typing. So I had to reduce it to something. I didn't know what to call it. One of my friends, I think it might have been Sammy, who said, "Why don't you call yourself Wolf Trove? Because Trove is like a treasure, and you're Wolfy." And I said, hey, that'll work. I'll try this. And so that's where Wolf Trove came about. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's fine, man.
I do a lot of talking, and I tend to jump over my tongue a lot.
Oh, you're preaching to the choir.
Mm.
I do that every podcast. There's something, especially early on. I used to flub the lines. We have the only recorded part or pre-recorded part, or sorry, pre-typed part.
I do.
I would do it. I would mess it up every time. Cherry's like, "Nope, do it again. Nope, do it again."
After 20 episodes, you've got the hang of it now.
Yeah, this will be 21, I think.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, do you ever play any sports games?
Ooh, define sports.
Well, usually there's a ball involved.
Okay, because I said that because I have Motor Sports Manager.
Okay.
Where you played manager for like the F1 racing series and the Star Car races as well.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if you would really consider that a sport because it's not physical activity, but at the same time, I mean, it is a sport that people watch.
I mean, it's kind of in your wheelhouse too that it's a simulation strategy type.
Right. And that's unfortunate for me because I don't really generally go outside my comfort zone. I really just...
I thought you just meant in general outside.
The way you stop then, you're just like, just don't go outside.
It's scary out there. There's people everywhere.
There are people everywhere. I would tell you in a side story, but that'll come later.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know where I was going with this train of thought now.
You were saying that you normally don't go outside your comfort zone of strategy games, but that one...
So yeah, I don't really go outside my comfort zone for strategy games or simulations. That's really my own fault. Like, I should branch out and do other things, but as I said before, like, streaming to me is all about what I want to do, not necessarily what other people want me to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I did buy one fighting game today. It's called Icy. I want to try it out. It's like a hack and slash game, 2D side scroller.
It's called Icy?
Yes.
Like ICY?
Yeah. No, like ICEY.
Oh, okay. I had not heard of that one.
Yeah.
It's a hack and slash
like 2D
fighting game?
Yeah, like a 2D side scroller kind of deal.
Nice.
It looks neat. Like, the art is also fantastic. But I want to try it out, see what it's like. I don't really know what else I'm going to be doing.
What else have you bought on the Steam?
You want to know all the money I spent?
Just the games.
No, not...
Oh, yeah. All the games I spent with money. Yeah, something like that. So for this particular sale, I've went out and I bought LA Noire, the collector's edition, for cheap, as well as Battlefield Bad Company 2. I also got Prey. I bought 3 copies of Magicka 2 for some stupid reason. Oh wait, 4 of them, because I also needed one. I got Styx, Shards of Darkness. Europa I ended up buying as well, because I do want to try it out. It's like a real-time like strategy game based in the real-world events, so we'll see how that goes. And then I also bought Icy. I don't know what else I'm going to buy. I kind of set a budget for the Steam sale, and it's working out alright, but yeah.
Well, that's good.
Mm-hmm. Excited to play some other things. I was gifted Eco by somebody, and Eco is like Minecraft, except for everything you do in the world affects the world, opposed to everything you do in the world doesn't affect the world.
Okay.
So
I've not heard of this one. It's called, how do you spell Eco?
It's ECO.
Okay. Whenever I hear Eco, I think about the old PS2 and PS3 Eco and Shadow of the Colossus.
Well, I mean, there is going to be one of those times where there's only so many times you can make a new name for a video game before you then
Exactly.
overlap other video games. So,
like Tomb Raider and Tomb Raider.
Yeah, like Tomb Raider and Tomb Raider. But those Tomb Raiders actually had like another sentence after. It would be Tomb Raider: The Rise of the Tomb, or whatever it was called, right?
Well,
So
I think in like a couple of games have done this when they're franchises like that, where the original game was called Tomb Raider back in the 90s, and there was just a regular game called Tomb Raider here a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Again, but I guess if it's been a decade, they'll allow it. Well, I think I already know the answer to this next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Would you say you have a favorite game of all time?
Oh, no, I don't, actually.
You don't? I would swear it was going to be Factorio.
Uh, as much as I would love it to be Factorio, I only have 600 hours in Factorio. So earlier when I said 800, I lied.
Oh, okay.
But I do have 855 hours in Anno 2070, which is another like simulation game where instead of you landing on a different planet, you are kind of like a corporate figurehead, and you're trying to
Okay.
build civilization so that people can survive again. And the way that the story is set up is that all of the Arctic and Antarctica has melted, and then the waters have risen, so there's only so much land left in the world that people can survive on. And you've been given this task to live on these certain amount of islands. And you have other corporations coming and fighting with you. And essentially what you do is you build a house and you'll get your first type of settlers that come in. And those settlers will say, okay, in order for us to live here, you need to satisfy our need for water, and our need for rice, and our need for tea, and our need for community. And once you get those four things, then we will stay. So what you then have to do is go out and find the resources and kind of like micromanage how much you have in store, how much you're giving to the people. And then once they have all their demands basically met, what you can then do is start to upgrade them so that they become tier 2 citizens. You still keep the tier 1s somewhere along the way because you still need them. But once you have like an overpopulation of the first tier, then you can upgrade them to the second tier, and they become more like high class kind of people who require different things to keep them satisfied.
I think I can see how this is in your wheelhouse.
Really?
Sounds like it's the right amount of sim and micromanagement that you like to play.
Right, and then at the very end of the game, you can build, I think it's a tower or a structure that allow you to get like little microchips that go in your warehouses where you store everything. And those will give you bonuses like 25% more to rice gains from your rice fields and that kind of stuff. So it does add an element where if on one island, let's say you're only making tea, but you need to make rice there as well, but there's no seeds for rice, you can then put in a stock for seeds that allows you to put rice down on that island, but it takes up that one slot so that you can't put anything else in there.
Oh, okay.
Which adds the level of depth. And that's what I really enjoy from games, right? Is that
yeah,
it is a game that isn't meant to be hard, but then becomes harder as you play it, and then you make it harder on yourself by setting other rules. Like when I play The Witcher, I play with HUDs off. I try not to meditate anywhere that isn't safe, and I don't use the fast travel boards.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that makes the game more experiencing. So as long as I don't pull out my swords or anything, you can't see my HUD. So that means you get the full thing of the game. And then I gotta walk everywhere. You gotta come with me as I'm walking. I'm not editing this. So, you know, I don't know. It makes the game harder for me because now I can't meditate out in the middle of nowhere to regen my potions so I can win this fight.
Yeah, you have to basically
I gotta
do it
walk
more
back,
realistically.
or I gotta figure out how to do this fight. So,
Just talking about through these sim games, did you play or try City Skylines?
So, yes. Yes, I did play City Skylines, but I gotta go back a little bit further. I was one of the people who did try SimCity when it came back out in 2015, I believe it was, or 2014.
Oh, the EA version?
The EA version. And that game was shit.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
They seem to do what they normally do of stripping out everything and selling it back as DLC.
Right. And then one of the other things, like, they were trying to do it as, oh, you can make this city only make computer stuff, and you can make it a computer city. But the cities didn't match up with themselves, and they didn't interlock, and they didn't really do anything they were supposed to do. And then City Skylines was in development at that time, and they turned around and said, we want to go visit other cities to see how all the cities work and try to integrate that into our game. Now, they didn't get everything integrated into the game, but for what they have done, like you have the snow DLC where you can have snow plows go around and plow the snow so that people can get around.
Oh, cool.
What else? You have the natural disasters one, which I don't think I have.
Have you seen any of
And
that, Wolf? Have you seen any of the natural disasters one?
I did watch College of Celiac the other day play it, and he did have it on, but I didn't really see much towards it. It just like gave people more happiness, I think, to have certain like shortwave towers and stuff like that up.
It's
Um,
uh, it's a bit mad. I have seen some streams of it, and it's like you build your city. Obviously, you do the standard stuff, and then you just get absolutely annihilated by like a tsunami or a hurricane. Things like that. It just looks mad.
that sounds amazing. I actually
But
want to
yeah,
get this now.
yeah. You said you played quite a lot of City Skylines, haven't you? I just recently got it because it was on sale on Steam, and you recommended it actually as well.
So I did get it, and when you watch other people, every time someone starts a city, it's a little bit different. So the way that Celiac did it was that he had a highway come in and then merge out onto like a second tier highway and allowed people to get through. I usually take the right side of the map and I put all my houses there, and then on the left side I put all my industry, in the middle I put commercial, and then I don't future proof my city. And um I try destroying everything when I want to rebuild, pretty much.
When you say future proofing your city, what does that mean?
So future proofing is like, if you look at a map and you hold pause for a bit, you just take a look. Okay, this is how I want my city to be. I want residential here. We'll put some commercial in there as well. And then way back, farther in the back of the map, I want to build just like a farming place, just for farming. But there's no way for you to get there just yet. So future proofing would be like you set up a highway so that later on in the game, when you have enough money to get that far, you can push that highway all the way down. It does destroy some of the building, but you're not destroying any of the roads that you've already put down.
Oh,
I
yeah, yeah.
don't future proof for things later on. I just play it for now. So let's say I'm building a city and then we have a sewage problem and I can't fix it now. We're screwed. Right? I don't put
Well,
down like 3 or 4 different things for sewage and water. Just, let's see what happens.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Another game that I will bring up is XCOM 2. I've really enjoyed playing that as well.
Oh yeah, I forgot to bring that one up earlier. That is it's a fun sim game where you if anybody doesn't know, where you basically manage a fleet after an alien invasion.
Yes.
Is that right?
That is pretty much correct. So essentially what happens, the first XCOM game is when the aliens had come to Earth, and then the way that the XCOM program was set up so that you could fight off the aliens and not allow them to take over the world. Um, XCOM 2, they went with the story if the aliens had won and now are on the planet. And XCOM is still a thing, though people are kind of like, well, what's wrong with the aliens? There's nothing wrong with them. So you're just trying to like uncover everything that's happening. And so you can make your own soldiers through the character pool, which I really like because they make followers and whatnot through there, and those are the
Yeah,
people
it's
that
a
I run
really
with.
good feature.
So I usually make my own self, and I'm usually yellow and blue. I don't know why, but I'm usually yellow and blue, and I let it be random, so I can be any one of the classes. And so you go through the game, and you're using "and" a lot,
and then
and then. So you're essentially fighting off the alien hordes that come in and have landed here already, and the idea is to get the aliens off the planet. And the only way to do that is by destroying their hive mind, which is the elders. So that is the ultimate goal, is you're going to go find the elders and kill them so that you can wipe them off the face of the planet. But it's a turn-based strategy game. It's tile-based as well, so you move to an adjacent tile. It's got a full cover system. Um, R&D god or RNG gods are pretty terrible to everybody because you can miss a 99% shot because it
yeah.
is that 1%'s there, so it's still there. And you know what? I have fun. And that's the most important thing to me. Like I've said so many times before, is that as long as I'm having fun, then the stream will go on.
Yeah, I played quite a bit of that last year when the not the DLC, but whatever the first version of it, or XCOM 2 came out. It was a lot of fun. I think I probably played it like I do every game. I played it too much and wore myself out on it.
I mean, if you haven't gone back to play the expansion, I would highly suggest it, because the
I've
expansion...
read nothing but good things for the expansion. Oh, sorry to cut you off.
That's fine. The expansion is essentially a separate game that is installed into this one.
Oh, okay.
So the amount of features that was added to XCOM 2 from War of the Chosen, it could have been a standalone title by itself.
Well, that's good. It's rare that a big company will do that these days.
Right. You usually have to pay a lot of money for little pieces of that.
We'll definitely have to check that one out. I appreciate that recommendation. We're coming up here on an hour now, so what I probably would like to wrap things up here. Let's go ahead and is there social media that they can get a hold of you on, Wolfy?
Okay, so for most of my social media stuff, it is Wolftrove. It is Wolf_Trove. So at Twitter, it would be at Wolf_Trove. At Twitch, same place. So at twitch.tv/Wolftrove. YouTube, if you go into YouTube and search I think it's Drunken Wolf 0, that'll come up with my Wolftrove channel. You can also search Wolftrove as well. As far as that, I don't think I have anything else. I have an Instagram somewhere, but I have no idea what it is.
All right. Well, Wolf, I appreciate you being on.
Thank you.
You can reach me on Twitter at Crunky_Twitch. Cherry, they can reach you at... Is it
you're asking me?
518? Yeah.
Yes, Cherrycake518 on Twitter.
After 20 episodes, I think I finally got it committed to memory.
Oh, well done.
Also, for those of you guys who are listening to the podcast for the first time, do me a favor and tell 2 friends about it. We're trying to grow our numbers a little bit before we do any advertising. Pay for advertising to grow the channel a bit. Also, check out Cherry on Twitter if you need some editing work done or even some artwork. I know you've helped create some emotes lately, Cherry. Is that right? Didn't you do D's emote?
Yeah, well, yeah. I guess what you class as lately, but yeah, I've done a few.
Lately, within the last 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, if you want to go do that, then yeah.
You also made my emote.
Yes.
I did.
See?
Well, yes.
Yes.
It's a stretch, but yes.
Well, thank you guys for being on here. Really appreciate it.
I just wanted to thank both of you for inviting me to this podcast. And as an aside, I would like to give you something of my appreciation, which is...
All right. Well, thanks a lot, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.